We are now once again joined by Mr. Aiyar, Swaminathan Aiyar, who's of course a consulting editor with ET Now. Swami sir, always good to have you. We just spoke last evening. We were thinking about, what's going to happen, but finally Donald Trump has decided 25% tariff plus additional penalties. Your first thoughts?
Well, I would straight away say, please don't say finally. Mr. Trump is still going to be dancing around. He says 25% plus. It may then become minus, it may become plus again. Anybody who thinks that this is a final tariff for his 4 years of power, I think is very, very much mistaken. I'm quite sure that in subsequent years too, he's going to take an axe to you and try. First, this shows that all the stuff about India being a special position or some chemistry between Modi and Trump, all of that was optimistic faff. Everybody else. And if, the interim tariff was supposed to be 26%, and people thought, oh, how high? And now it's 25 plus. So it's going to be even worse than the interim tariff. And there was a lot of optimistic things about some interim agreement and this, that, and the other. That is not the way it is working out. I would also add that there were many people who earlier said, let us be very accommodative. Let us give in to Trump as far. Let's not get into a retaliation game with him. For instance, one thing that we did, we gave up the Google tax without anything in return, just to try and mollify the man in advance. Now, if we see between our approach and China's approach, that China said, I'm absolutely going to stand up to you. I think the Chinese approach ultimately turns out to be better. If you stand up to Trump, you're going to get a better deal. If you just give in to begin with, he sees a weakness. He sees that India just doesn't have that many cards in this particular game, and he's going to slap you with whatever he wants. You just say that I'm going to buy some more US energy. Well, everybody is saying that. EU is saying that. Even China is saying that. And that doesn't appear to be any kind of strong point that we have. So all I can say is that I think we should have been tougher to begin with. But let us see what happens. This is a significant tariff. With this tariff, you are going to be harder hit. Earlier we thought that we would be better off than, shall we say, Bangladesh or various other people and have an advantage over them. Now it's no longer so certain. We just don't know. So let's see going forward. I'll merely say things have turned out to be worse than we had expected. It shows that there is no special chemistry. And it shows that we should have stood up to China in the first instance instead of being so soft.
Right, sir, and we'll have to see how the situation really pans out. But what is your understanding on for how long are these tariffs going to apply? Are these going to continue? Because we are given to understand that a trade team from the United States is going to visit India on August 25th. Do you think there's going to be some respite? And how soon can a respite from these tariffs can come about?
No, anybody who thinks that because Trump comes here, it means that we get some favors on the Trump side, on the tariff side. I think we've already shown very clearly what the situation is. He has treated us like any other country, and the fact that we were soft to begin with, it has not wooed him over. There is no special chemistry. It was just a mistake to start on that basis. So again, the idea that, just because he drops into India, he will give us a favor or two. He may give us a slap or two. Given the kind of reputation he has, the way he is carrying. So we have to get rid of the idea that by being friends, by being goody-goody, we are somehow going to get something out of him on the trade side. The plain and simple fact is that trade is right in saying that they have a large trade deficit. It's not going to go away.
Right, sir. Sir, but I have to disagree with you just a little bit. You can disagree with me as well. When it comes to India's strategy to deal with the United States, we have stood our ground. We have not let the United States cross the very red lines that India is trying to protect, whether it is with respect to agri, dairy, GM crops, or even on e-commerce. So India has stood its ground, and perhaps it is one very few countries, at least in Southeast Asia, which has not really agreed to Donald Trump's tariffs and conditions and, of course, pressure that he's trying to build since April.
I would say that you are going to be hit by him anyway. He is not interested in India doing well. He is interested in the USA doing well. There is this large trade deficit between the two. And truth be told, it is difficult to see what India could buy. Earlier, there was this talk about buying fancy fighter planes at $100 million each. After what we have seen in Operation Sindoor and in Ukraine, the success of drones and loitering munitions. I mean, we should just forget about massive arms purchases. It's a waste of money. We should be developing much cheaper
Right, sir.
things, a lot of it on our own. So as I said, just by saying that we will buy more arms, we shouldn't buy more arms. We will buy more energy. Everybody is offering to buy more energy from them, and there's a limit to what they can produce. So we will have to live with.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. So I want to understand from you, of course, you've spoken about how, we'll have to live with the kind of tariffs that have been imposed. And of course, we are expecting to hear from the government on what their stance is going to be with respect to this announcement that's been made by the United States. But let me ask you about the markets. How do you anticipate the markets to react tomorrow? We've spoken to some other investors as well. They're saying that the markets have already priced in the impact of these tariffs. What is your expectation on how the markets are going to react tomorrow?
Short run, there can be a setback. I believe the rupee has weakened, which again will be a weak point for as far as foreign investors are concerned. And what the outcome right now is much worse than had been anticipated. Because the outcome is much worse,
Okay.
there will be some downward movement. And yet, by and large, if you see that the markets were very disturbed in April when Mr. Trump first came out with these huge so-called reciprocal tariffs. After that, they said this guy put something high and he negotiates something else up and down, this, that, and the other. So, they are saying that this will have some ructions in the short run, but seeing through it to the longer run, they're saying India has good prospects, the world has good prospects. Yes, the growth prospect has been brought down earlier because in April, but you've just seen that the IMF in its World Economic Outlook has said, well, things don't look as bad as they looked in April. And because of that, there have been some upward revisions.
Right.
So as I said, short term, I think some
Right.
negatives. In the medium term, I think the markets will go up again.
Right, sir. Right, sir. So when you say that in April things did not look as bad, perhaps, and it's going to perhaps get impacted that much more because it is now that these tariffs will come into effect starting August 1. There was, a relief period that was given by Donald Trump and, of course, a baseline tariff, 10% baseline tariff applied on countries across the globe. And, of course, the impact is going to be that much more. But, sir, let me ask you, you mentioned about the IMF data and, of course, the RBI has also projected similar numbers for the Indian economy to grow between 6 to 6.5%. Do you think that number can be sustained, and the impact that these tariffs are going to have on the Indian economy, at least in the near term?
Okay, I mean, what can I say? Apart from what I've said, we are going to find it more difficult to export. The idea that India would have a window to compete better vis-a-vis China, that is now an illusion. So the idea, I mean, earlier on there was the idea that, look, the smartphones being manufactured by Apple in India, they are going to be competitive with China. I am no longer quite certain that would be the case. The value addition in India is so small that if there is a 25% tariff, how much advantage will we have over anybody else? The same question I think might apply to Samsung. So we were very gung-ho on this particular sector, and a very large part of these exports were going to the USA. That
Right,
is
sir.
a big
Right,
question
sir.
mark. And you look at the entire PLI policy. Here we were 14 sectors we were going to write. Out of those 14 sectors, only one sector seemed to be succeeding. Even that is in jeopardy, right?
Right,
So,
sir.
all kinds of things.
Right, sir. But still, sir, but still, the
Nevertheless,
cost of making an iPhone in the United States is far more than it is of making it here. And of course, data by Canalys actually suggests that, iPhone exports from India have exceeded iPhone exports India to the United States have exceeded those that have happened from China. But rightly said, it remains to be seen whether that momentum can be sustained. But I want to get an understanding from you on the fact that 25th is when a team from the United States is going to be arriving in India. How soon do you think that a bilateral trade agreement, the first tranche of it, can be completed? Do you think India and the United States will be able to finalize a deal by fall this year?
Okay, my personal opinion, I think Trump regards this as an occasion to bully India and force it into various contracts, especially on the arms side. Anybody who thinks he's coming here to give you some golgappas and lollipops, I do not think that is the way he behaves. He will come here and say, we are great friends, so you must buy all these aircraft, these extremely expensive aircraft from me, and the electronics that you require for this. He will offer you some very expensive drones also, and maybe some of those we can buy. But Mr. Trump will be regard this as an occasion where the United States can squeeze more out of India. Do not think that the relationship is such that we can squeeze much out of him. You know, there is this constant notion that if anybody comes here, it's a gain. Let's not, I mean, let us wait and watch. I am willing to wager that Mr. Trump will push his agenda.
Okay, so let me also ask you this question about negotiations that are currently going on virtually between both the sides. I mean, if we see the trend that Donald Trump has been following with several countries, whether it is with countries in Southeast Asia or with EU or Japan, there's been a significant component that's related to investments into the United States, or perhaps as a part of manufacturing. Specifically, if I talk about EU, they have committed to energy investments in energy infrastructure, energy sector in the United States. Do you think, if India asks for relief on these tariffs, and of course on steel and aluminum, that's a separate conversation altogether. Do you think if India is going to ask for relief on these duties, there's going to be a component that's going to be about perhaps investments, increasing investments into the United States?
The government of India has no ability to force Indians to invest in energy there. So it's not going to happen. China may be able to give an assurance like that. We cannot say we give you an assurance that Reliance is going to invest out there. If you say ONGC is going to invest, I mean, people will string up. I mean, it's unable to find anything even here, let alone in various other places. It will not be treated as serious. So as I said, India is not a big important country. We are still, only lower middle income country. So in terms of competing with the European Union, Britain, Japan, all of these guys, all of whom have been asked to invest, we will be a tiny pygmy compared with the others. So yes, he will demand that. And yet his main expectation, I think, will be to buy stuff from America. Foreign investment in another country, it takes many, many years to work a thing out. The investment itself will be distributed over a large number of years, especially in the energy sector. So that I do not think is where India has any kind of comparative advantage. We do have a comparative advantage in buying arms, but as I said, I am against buying arms. I think at this point of time, we need to change totally the kind of armaments pattern that we've had so far, change it altogether. And that will not be something that Mr. Trump will be happy about.
Right, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Sharing your perspectives and thoughts on really what to make of this big announcement, this bombshell that's been dropped by Donald Trump of 25% tariffs and additional duties on India, given the fact that we've not been able to arrive at a deal with the United States. Thank you very much, Swami, sir, for taking the time out and joining us here on ET Now. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap on this special edition of our coverage of the US-India trade deal. What lies ahead? Well, we'll be keeping you posted and updated in the following bulletins that come. Meanwhile, it remains to be seen what is going to be the reaction of the Indian government on Donald Trump's tweets. We'll keep you posted about that and more later on during the show.